Hello and welcome to my workshop. Today we'll be doing a brief outline on making a simple platter. There are lots of methods we can use to mount the blank on the lathe. The method we're going to use today is quite simply using a face plate and screwing it onto our blank. After finding the centre, we're just going to pop some screws in. With the face plate firmly screwed onto the blank, we're just going to mount the blank onto the lathe headstock. And then for security, we're going to bring up the tailstock to jam it between centres. Just changed over to a spindle gouge because it gives me better access to cut that dovetail. So this is the tool I'm going to be using. It's pretty important to do a cleaning cut at the inside where the face of the jaws is going to sit. Make sure you've got all the little tiny fibres of wood out of that corner where the angles change. It's really important for mounting it. Okay, we're in a good place now. We've got the blank nice and concentric all the way round, and we've got a nice flat face here. We've got a dovetail that's been nicely cut. It's going to be very secure when we mount it in the chuck. So now we've just got to decide on what shape we're going to put into it. For this particular project, we're going to put a slight ogee shape into it, which means we're going to have a bowl shape at the bottom coming out to like a flange, like a nice S-bend. Using my 45-degree bowl gouge again, we're going to try and make this S shape in this face. Gentle cuts to begin with, just till we started our shape going and we know where we are. Take a moment to see how the shape's progressing. Get a general shape, it's a bit shallow, we're going to have to go quite a lot deeper. I think our tool's getting a bit blunt now, just getting a little bit of rip out on the grain here. Let's have a go at sharpening. On this Tormek setup, once you've got the jigs set up for the tool, it's just quite simply a matter of popping the tool in and giving it a quick sweep across the stone. There we go, all ready for small turning. Okay, that's got a nice smooth surface from the tool. All we need to do now, while it's reversed and we've got easy access, is to do a bit of sanding. Okay, we've completed our sanding, and now it's sanded, we can see the way the light is reflected from this lovely ogee or S-bend that we've put on here. One point to note, this edge here can get very, very sharp, so don't remember as you go along, just give that little touch with your abrasive just to take that very sharp edge away. Okay, now we've got this done, it's time to reverse it and repeat the shape on what will be the face of the platter. The blank has been reversed and we're now working on the face. For safety, I've put the tailstock back up against it. The reason why I've done that is because I've sometimes had the dovetail shear off if you get a nasty catch or anything. So just to be on the safe side, we put the tailstock to engage in it. That will hold it much more secure, and it can be removed quite easily once we start to hollow out the bowl section of the platter. So while we're working on the edge where the torque's at its greatest, we'll leave the tailstock in place. We're starting at this outside edge. There's quite a lot of material being removed because my design doesn't use the full thickness of this piece of wood. So I'm going to be busy taking some of this away for a while. Okay, hopefully as you can see, I've started putting the round section on the top face of the bowl. And if you're not confident with gauging it by your fingers, use some calipers. Here are some simple wooden calipers that we can all make. Providing the distance from one pincer to the other pincer is equal, that is from the centre, then the gap will be represented exactly the same. So if I put this on, I can see that on the other end I've got a gap of about 13mm, so that's my thickness of the platter at the moment. We're going to use a push cut to get the centre out. I'm just beginning that now. Keeping an eye on the shape that you've put on the back of the platter, that ogee or S shape. Remember, we have to mimic that on the front, so always bear that in mind with every cut you make. Using my calipers again, I can keep an eye on how this is going and see where I'm not actually following that shape too well. Keep repositioning your tool rest so you always have a small gap between the tool rest and the platter, and that maximises your tool control. I think we've got to the stage now where we can remove the tailstock support. As the platter, really this edge doesn't weigh much at all now, and we can concentrate on the bowl part. First thing I'd like to do is to remove that nib in the middle, so I'll make sure that my gouge is going to cut at centre height. and I'll just remove that. You notice when I was getting that vibration noise, I stopped it by just reducing the cut a little bit. So instead of it being, for instance, 3 mil deep, I was making the cut 2 mil deep. I do like the bowl within a platter shape, so I'm going to leave a little bowl and the defining line as I progress. To get the defining line between the two, I'm going to use my spindle gouge. We've finished our platter with its centre bowl, and all it needs now is a little bit of sanding. So I'm going to pause briefly and get on and finish the sanding. I've sanded the platter down to a 400 grit finish, and it's ready for finishing. But before I do that, I'm just going to show you how I reverse it to turn the dovetail off the back. I've mounted a sanding disc in my chuck. I'm now going to put a piece of gripper mat in between my finished platter and the abrasive disc, and then I shall bring up the tailstock to support it. Okay, that's about as fine as I dare go, just there. Now I'll cut that off and finally sand it down. Just finished now. We've turned the pip off the back, and it's been removed from the lathe. So here we have our final little platter. Hope you enjoyed the video. If it works out okay, we might even try it again. Okay.